Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And before we get started, I would like to thank our sponsors. First State Bank, Pearland Economic Development Corporation, Freeport Economic Development Corporation, Gulf Coast Concrete and Shell, the City of Clute, TDCU, and T-Mobile. Without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to have some of these webinars that we have today. Our presenter today is Timothy Jeffcoat. He is the District Director of the U.S. Small Business Administration from the Houston District Office. We are officially proud partner of SBA. Thank you so much for being here with us today to talk about the latest funding opportunities for businesses, Tim. We greatly appreciate it, and we're very interested to hear about it.
Great. Well, thank you for inviting me. And yes, we are a proud partner of the Brazoria County Hispanic Chamber. So what I have for you today, and I'll share my screen in just a second, is a kind of a dive into this most recent Economic Aid Act and the aid that it has made available for small businesses all over the U.S. So without further ado, let me get that up on the screen. Here we go. So here's what I'm going to talk to you about, and I'll go kind of fast. As you have questions, you can just hang on to them or plug them into the chat box. And as soon as I'm done, we'll take care of those questions. But here's what I want to go over. What's going on with the Paycheck Protection Program? And there are three aspects to that: economic injury, disaster loans, and grants. There's something new called a Shuttered Venue grant. And then there are a couple of things called debt relief and then changes to the existing SBA lending programs for SBA business loans. So not disaster loans, but business loans. And that's what we're going to go over, and then have a couple of quick recommendations for you. So that you know, don't do it now, but if you go to that website, you can sign up for the email list of the SBA office in Houston. We do between 15 and 30 webinars a week on all kinds of topics to help your small business. And by being on our mailing list, every time we do anything, we're going to let you know about it so that you can take advantage of it. And so that you know I'm not making these things up, it's coming directly from the Economic Aid Act, as well as these documents that were created by the SBA in order to explain the program to the public and to the banks that administer these programs. And then there were a couple of application forms that are also now all of this on the SBA website, accessible by you. To give you a high-level overview, this Economic Relief Act has set aside $284.45 billion in funding to support small businesses. So that also includes, and this is really good news, $15 billion that is set aside just for the very small banks, $35 billion for first-time borrowers, with $15 billion of that being money that is only available to those with 10 or fewer employees or getting a loan for less than $50,000 in low-income areas. $25 billion is set aside for that same basic group, but for their second PPP, if they need a second PPP. There's $20 billion that has funded the Economic Injury Disaster Grant Program, and I'll tell you more about that. And then $50 billion for this Shuttered Venues grant that I had mentioned. So let me go ahead and just give you a quick overview of what's going on with the First Draw PPP. So the Paycheck Protection, let me give you just a fast background. Paycheck Protection Program is loans intended to fund your paychecks to your employees and to yourself. That's the intent of this program. In a nutshell, these loans are available to businesses affected by COVID. They're up to $10 million each. The way you calculate the value of the loan is you get your average monthly payroll. So you'll look back over the last year, calculate your average monthly payroll, and multiply that by 2.5. So let's say that your payroll was $10,000 a month, then that means your PPP loan would be for $25,000, which is 2.5 times 10,000. It's that straightforward. The application is very simple. You do this loan with your local bank. The loan is also 100% forgivable. So I'll go a little bit more into these details, but as long as you spend 60% or more on paychecks, and when we say paychecks, we mean those for which you do a W-2 that actually get a paycheck from you. This is not for contractors that you pay on a 1099. This is only for those employees. And then the remaining 40% can be used on some other expenses, and I'll explain those to you in a minute. So that's the basics of what a Paycheck Protection Program loan is. Now, this act changed a little bit. First, at the bottom there, you can see that you can choose a period anywhere between 8 and 24 weeks in order to spend the money once you get this check. But you do need to spend it within that time frame. I mentioned that 60% up to 100% needs to be used for paycheck, must be used for paychecks. 40% or less can be used for the things you see there on the screen. So it's going to be mortgage interest, utilities, rent, and then here the new things are operating expenses such as software, cloud accounts, human resources and accounting needs. It can cover supplier costs. So if these are supplies that are essential to the operation of your business and you had a contract in place before you applied for your loan, you can pay for those. Can also take care of protective equipment for your employees. And then if you have property damage because of public disturbances and your insurance won't pay for that, PPP can pay for that. Those are the important things for you to know off of this screen. And what I'm showing you, by the way, when you see Section 8, Section 9, Section 10, those are the sections of the part of the HR 133 Economic Act. These extracts directly from those to inform us in this presentation. So payroll includes all of the normal payroll costs such as benefits. So if you pay insurance benefits to your folks, anything that you classify as compensation to them is payroll. You had to have been in business on February 15 of 2020. If you started your business in March of 2020 or in June of 2020, you are not, I'm sorry, but you're not. And then if you were previously approved for a PPP loan and you chose not to receive funds at that time, or if you just received a little bit, or if you accepted the loan and then paid back a big part of it. Section 12 says you can go back to your banker and you can say, I've changed my mind, that money, and you should be able to get it at that time. Probably not real important to anybody here except the Brazoria County Hispanic Chamber, but 501c6 organizations are now eligible, and those are usually chambers of commerce and destination marketing organizations like Houston First, tracks conventions to the Houston area. The new act specifically said publicly traded companies cannot apply for PPP any longer. You might remember in the news about some various public companies that got PPP loans in the beginning. Well, that's now prohibited. And FCC broadcast station license holders, so television or radio, as well as newspapers, are also included now in PPP. So I'll do a quick recap. If you've never gotten a PPP, you may now do so. We call that now a first draw PPP. It's up to $10 million. How you know how much it is, you calculate your average monthly payroll for 2020 or 2019, multiply that by 2.5, that's the amount of the loan. In order to get it forgiven, there are 3 important keys: 60% has to be spent on paychecks, 40% or less on those expense categories that I mentioned. And then the third key is that you need to maintain your employee count. So if you have 10 employees hired, you need to keep them, and you need to pay them at least 75% of what you used to pay them. Those are the keys to making sure you get total forgiveness. Now, if you have gotten a first draw PPP loan, you may then, if you still need money, get a second draw PPP loan. So these are a maximum of $2 million. And there are a few more things that changed. First, you cannot have more than 300 employees. Secondly, you have to have used already, or you're in the process of using up your first PPP. So you can go ahead and apply for a second PPP, but the bank will not fund you until the first one has been exhausted. Most importantly, you have to be able to show a 25% reduction in sales and what we call your gross receipts when you compare quarter to quarter. For example, quarter 2 2019, if you compare that to quarter 2 2020, it needs to show a 25% or more reduction. You can actually compare the entire years if you would like to, 2019 and 2020. And if that shows a 25% reduction, but that's a key to being able to qualify for this. There are some businesses that are excluded. If you're involved in politics or lobbying, if you're affiliated with the Republic of China, if you are a registrant under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, you may not apply for this loan. And you see there, Shuttered Venue, if you receive that grant, you can't apply, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. So here's how you document that 25% reduction. There's 3 ways. If you do quarterly financial statements now, then it's easy. You just do it, just look at your quarters, find a quarter that's 25% reduction, and you're ready to go. If you use QuickBooks, then you can do quarterly financials with QuickBooks pretty easily. If you don't have a business where you really do a lot of bookkeeping and you don't have QuickBooks, maybe independent contractor, let's say an Uber driver, and you get paid cash a lot or otherwise streams of money, then you may use your bank statements. What you'll do is you'll take your bank statements for 2019 and 2020, and you will compare the deposits there that are related to your income. And if you can show a 25% reduction, then that's great, you qualify. And then finally, if you can take your 2019 tax return and your 2020 tax returns. And if that shows a 25% or more reduction between 19 and 20, then that will be okay as well. So you got 3 possible ways that you can show it. Now, one thing that I get asked, is if you're only in business for just a few months in 2020, what do you do? Well, if we just skip to the one at the bottom of the screen, item DD, it says, if you were in business on February 15 and you had sales in the second, third, or fourth quarter, then you can compare those to the first quarter of 2020. So you can compare quarter to quarter within the year if you're only in business for a short period of time. So this information is available to you if you are only in business a short period of time. Also, your lender will understand this and they'll be able to help you do the analysis. Well, they won't do it for you, but they'll help tell you what you need to do in order to show your 25% reduction qualification. But this is the key for a second PPP. A couple of more really important things about this second draw. The first one is that if you are in hotel or restaurant, so accommodations and food service, there's a code for that. It's called the North American Industrial Classification System. So if you're a NAICS code 72 business, and you can go to that website I show on the right-hand side of the screen to confirm if you're in that, but essentially you're going to be some kind of a hotel or restaurant, then you get to calculate your loan as 3.5 times your average monthly payroll. So that gets you a larger loan than everybody else. You can't have more than 300 employees, as we said. And otherwise, the other information on this not worth going over right now. That just to give you that high level view of second draw PPP. So to just give you a quick review of second draw, you have to have had a first draw in order to get a second draw. The same 60-40 for forgiveness applies. 60% or more on paychecks, 40% or less on the other expenses. The loan is up to $2 million. It's still calculated as 2.5 times your 2020 or 2019 average monthly payroll. If you are in food service or accommodations, you can get 3.5 times that average monthly payroll as your loan. So this is all really good news, the ability to not only get a first draw PPP that's 100% forgivable, but a second draw PPP that is also 100% forgivable. Now, what is coming up now with PPP, you have to apply to be forgiven. When you're finished spending your PPP money, you will go back to your banker, complete an application that says, I would like forgiveness, and here is why. And there's lots to that topic. Know that my office teaches PPP forgiveness webinars at least twice a week, and we go into a lot of depth so that you understand how to approach forgiveness in order for you to get maximum forgiveness. And we would love it if you get 100% forgiveness. One thing that came out of the new Relief Act is that we needed to create a one-page simplified application to get forgiveness for loans of $150,000 or less. And that has been done. That application exists today. It is one page long. And essentially, you fill it out with your PPP loan, and then you attest and you sign legally that you really did spend 60% or more for paychecks, 40% or less for those other expenses. And then you should be able to achieve 100% forgiveness. You will have to keep your records because we may come to you sometime in the next 4 years and ask to see the records of how you spent that in order to confirm that you did indeed spend it correctly. So be aware that it's completely possible that we will audit what you have done. But this is a very simple process to make it as easy as it can be on those smallest businesses. Also, if you received the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Grant, also called the EIDL Advance, you might have gotten one for $10,000 or less. If you did, then the CARES Act required that we subtract that from your PPP loans forgiveness. This act repeals that, so that is no longer necessary. And if you already had a PPP, you already applied for forgiveness, and your bank subtracted that from your forgiveness, then just go tell your bank to fix that problem. They will come back to us, and we will essentially refund that so that it gets applied back to your account. So that's good news. Now we're going to leave PPP, and let me tell you what this new act did with the Economic Injury Disaster Loans. Give you a quick, the EIDL loan, or sometimes we pronounce that and call it the EIDL loan. It's up to $150,000 for the COVID disaster. The amount of the loan is based on how injured your business is. So that thus the name Economic Injury Disaster Loan. But it can be up to $150,000. It is a loan. There is no forgiveness, but it is for 25 years at 3 3/4% interest, and you can repay it anytime you'd like. So it's a very flexible loan. You know, PPP requires mainly paychecks and a little bit of other stuff. EIDL is meant to cover all of your normal operating expenses. So paying suppliers, paying your power bill, paying your employees, paying your rent, those kinds of things. So what came out in the recent act, at the bottom of the screen, they see that it was renewed. The EIDL loan expired in December of 2020. So now they're renewed and they're going through the rest of 2021. That's great news. And then the EIDL Grant program, also called the EIDL Advance, that ran out of funding last year. At the time it ran out of money, a lot of people that had applied did not get a grant. Now, we will be contacting those folks that have already applied here that are in low-income communities, and we'll be contacting them by email, telling them, come back and get your grant now. We now have funding for it. And if you are someone for that grant and you only got a partial grant, what we did last year is we said, we aren't going to give everybody 10,000. We'll give you 1,000 per employee up to 10,000. So let's say you had 2 employees. That means your EIDL grant or advance would have been $2,000. Now we're going to come back to you if you are in a low-income area and say, you may now come back and get the remaining $8,000 of your grant. And these are grants. They don't have to be paid back. These are basically gifts from the federal government. So you might be asking me, Tim, what is a low-income community? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is the Internal Revenue Service definition, and there's 2 halves to it. First, if you're in a census tract, so that's a geographic area that has at least 20% poverty, then you are in a low-income area. Or if the median family in your census tract is less than 80% of the statewide family income, then you qualify. Or if you're in a metro, it can be less than 80% of the metro family income, either one of those. So that's the definition for a low-income area. If you have applied previously for the grant and you didn't get it, and you feel you are in one of these areas, then you should be getting an email from the SBA offering the grant to you now. Now, this is not happening right this minute, but it's going to begin happening in February. So if this describes you, then just stay tuned and you should hear from the SBA pretty soon. People ask me, Tim, but I never applied, but I want to apply for this grant. I'm sorry, you cannot. We are only sending these grants to people that already applied for it. Now, if we get done and we satisfy every grant application that currently exists and there's still money left, then maybe we will open it back up to the general public. But for now, it's limited only to those that already applied for the grant. Now, I'll go over this one really quickly because this probably doesn't apply to any of the businesses here today. But there is another grant program, and it's meant for what's called shuttered venues. So as it says here, these are live venue operators. So what's a live venue? This would be like a concert hall. So that could be the Symphony Hall in downtown Houston, or that could be a small music outfit like the Heights Theater, which is an old movie theater turned into a place that has concerts every week. That's the intent, is for this money to be granted to organizations that do some kind of live performance. Could be drama, plays, could be music, could be ballet, could be dance. But you have to show 25% or greater revenue reduction. And when this grant program comes available, which will be in the next week or 2, then it's first going to go to those with 90% or greater revenue loss. After 2 weeks, it will then go to those with a 70% or greater revenue loss. And only after those 2 groups receive their grant funds will other businesses of this type be able to receive this grant funding. So this is coming up soon. If you are in this category or you know someone that you think will be eligible for a shuttered venue grant, we are currently doing 2 webinars a week in my office about the shuttered venue program. There are 2 important things you need to do right now to get ready for when the grants come available. You need to get your financials in order so you can do this analysis of whether your revenue has declined this much. And the second thing is you need to create what's called a SAM account, S-A-M. That's the System for Award Management. It's a website. You have to create a profile there so we know how to pay you the grant money. It's not quick. It will probably take a week to 2 weeks to get that account created. So those are the 2 important things to And if you'd like more detail, or you know someone that you believe will want more detail on this, then direct them to our website so that we can so that they can find out how to get into those shuttered venue webinars that we are doing. We're doing one, I think, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. if you know anybody that would like to attend that. And then finally, SBA, every year, we guarantee loans for small businesses. It's kind of like we co-sign on the loan with to make it easier on the bank to fund your business. So what I'm about to talk about is not disaster loans, but those normal SBA loans. We've made some really important changes. First, and that's the top half yellow, if you have an existing SBA loan, it might be called 7A, 504, or microloan, then we are going to make your payments for you in February, March, and April. So for 3 months, maximum of $9,000 a month. If you are a business that's one of those that's really hit hard, so this isn't the total list, but as an example, food service, accommodations, arts, entertainment, recreation, education, laundry, and personal care, then we may pay 5 more months of your loan for you so you don't have to pay it, to give you more money to be able to spend on your business and on your staff. Again, up to $9,000 a month for your loan payments. Now, if you or a business you know is basically in good shape right now, and there are a lot of businesses that are pretty well right now, then this might be a great time for you to go apply for one of these loans. You can get it at your local SBA lender. Many banks in Houston are SBA lenders, and they can help you with this. If you apply for one of these loans and get approved, then we're going to make 6 months of payments on your loan for you this year. Now that expires September 30 of this year. So that means you'd have to get this loan applied for and dispersed by, what would that work out to, the end of March, right? And then we'd be making April, May, June, July, August, September. And then we would make 6 payments on your loan for you. Free. That's a great deal. In addition, these loans frequently have fees affiliated with those loans that you have to pay and the bank has to pay in order to get that guarantee on the loan. You no longer have to pay those fees, so that's 100% free. The interest rates are very low right now, around between 5 and 7%. And we are incentivizing the bank, and we're helping the bank with a 90% guarantee. So what that means is if you needed a loan for, let's say, $1 million, again, just to make the math easy on me, then the bank would know that if you wound up unable to repay that loan, the SBA would pay back $900,000 of that loan on your behalf, and their only exposure is $100,000. So just 10%. That's our way of making that loan really attractive to the bank so that they are really eager to fund you. So this is really good news for those businesses that are basically doing okay. And maybe now is the time you want to buy some new delivery vehicles, or you want to buy some new equipment for your business, or maybe you want to buy one of your competitors. It's the perfect time to go get that funding. So I've just got one more slide, and then I'm at the end of this slide presentation, and we can take your questions. And if you just look here at the top of this screen, very busy screen full of information, these folks are free to you, and they can help you with your business. There's about 250 mentors, advisors, and counselors in the Houston area at no charge can help you with your business, whether it's applying for PPP or whether it's designing a new social media strategy. The Texas Gulf Coast Small Business Development Center, Houston SCORE, WBEA Women's Business Center are all existing partners of the SBA that can help you. And soon, the Greater Houston Women's Chamber Women's Business Center will be available to help you. You see their websites there. The right thing to do is just to click that link, go to their website and tell them that you need some help, and they will be in touch with you, and they'll probably meet with you just like I am now on Zoom. My office is listed on the left-hand side of the screen here. Please go to our website and sign up for our email list. That way we will let you know everything we're doing that could help your business. If you need us to try to answer a question for you, on the right-hand side of the screen here, you can see our email address and phone number. Don't hesitate to shoot an email to us. We will do our best to answer it for you. And I think that brings us to the conclusion of what I was going to say today. So if we want to take some questions now, the timing is perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffcoat. That was a lot of great information. I think that this is really good information for some of these businesses to be able to utilize SBA. You'll have so many resources. Working together with you guys was really easy. So I really want to thank you for helping some of the businesses get some of those loans and some of that funding. It was really good to see that in our close relationship. We do have a couple of questions. I believe this was for the EIDL Grant CARES Act, under the CARES Act. Low income also include opportunity zone and severely distressed new market tax credit areas. They're asking.
No, it's strictly the definition that I gave you from the Internal Revenue Service. Now, those opportunity zones, et cetera, might frequently do fall into one of these defined areas. But as far as I have seen in our guidance, that is the definition of a low-income area.
Okay. Another one was a business under designation partner. Would that qualify for PPP or EIDL?
And what was the question again? I didn't catch.
A business under designation, it says partner. Would that qualify for PPP or EIDL?
I'm not really sure what that means. If it means a partnership, a legal form of that business, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Partnership.
And the partnership is going to use their K-1 statements as the basis for their PPP loan. Absolutely.
We had another question. Can we access the PowerPoint for this presentation or a recording of this meeting? We're going to have this. We're actually recording this now, and it'll be on our YouTube channel. We'll be sharing that out to all the social media. And I believe, I don't see that we have any other questions. If anybody has any questions, either click the Q&A button, or you can ask them here in the chat. So I know you were talking about as far as the shutter loans. I know a few businesses that are actually DJs, and they were asking if they would fall into that.
In some cases, they might, because and I'm gonna get sick when I go so fast through this. And I want to take a look at this right here. So the broad definition, live venue operators or promoters. So they might fall into that category of being someone that promotes live events. Theatrical producers. So sometimes that theatrical producer might fall into that kind of category. And then talent representatives. So it's conceivable that what you just described will fit in this context. I think that the business you just described fits into the general spirit of what Congress meant to do, which is for those performing artists out there that are not working right now, and the venues that support them and the talent agents that support them. The intent is for them to get some funding to help them through this. I get lots of people say, I have an annual fair. Do I qualify? Or I have a beer festival. Do I qualify? Or I have a wedding chapel. Do I qualify? In most of those cases, the answer is no, you don't, because it's not a performing art. It's a festival. And the grant is not meant for festivals. It's meant for these live performance venues and live performance organizations.
Great information. Great information. I don't see that we have any other questions. Don't see that we have anything else here. I really want to thank you too, working together with us and getting some of this information out to our Spanish-speaking community. I know it has been very hard to be able to get this information over to that community. We actually went visiting them, asking them if they were actually taking advantage of any of the resources, but they had no idea. how to even get some of those resources. But I want to thank you for doing that. Y'all did an excellent job this year, putting that information out in Spanish and doing the webinars.
Well, thank you. We try. We're very lucky to have several both bilingual and bicultural folks in our office, and they're passionate about being able to help everybody they can help. So thank goodness they have the command of the language to be able to do a good translation. And we're just very lucky to have them.
Right. Thank you. So we're going to continue to share all of your webinars onto our website and share them off to our members. We try to do that also in our social media, so we can get that information out. Want to thank you so much for spending your time with us today and giving us the valuable information that we needed. And it's very important for the Brazoria County Hispanic Chamber to get those resources. We're a connector, so having those resources and getting them to our small businesses so they can utilize them. I mean, we can actually go home and feel like we've done our job. So I really want to thank you for taking your time out, and thank you and all your staff. Really appreciate all of the hard work that you guys have done.
Well, you're very welcome. I think some of us probably need a little bit of sleep this week, but we'll be okay.
Yes. Well, this concludes our webinar. So we'll definitely get this uploaded to YouTube and put on our YouTube channel. Thank you, Tim, and we look forward to our close relationship and looking forward to keeping our working together.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. And I hope your businesses grow and you do great.
Thank you.
Stay safe.